The GEPRC Darkstar 22 is so close to being perfect, but my god, there are things about this that drive me absolutely insane. Since my first look video, I've spent a lot more time with it, and the question everyone wants answered is it actually better than the Pavo20 Pro? Because honestly, I thought the answer would be easy, but just like in any new relationship, it's a little bit complicated. Just a quick disclaimer, GEPRC did send me this quad without the 04 Pro for free. They didn't pay me to do this video, they don't get to see the video before you do, and as always I will be totally honest about the things I love and also talk about the things that other reviewers probably haven't. In order to keep this simple and to save you from having to scroll through the comments to find the answers, here are the things that I'm looking at directly, and I'll compare these against the Pavo20 Pro. The timestamps are below if you want to hop around, but a lot of these things are linked, so please make sure that you watch the whole thing before you come at me in the comments on one of these things specifically. I want to talk about the cost, and in my first video I didn't have the price, but now that it's been officially released I can give a view on the Darkstar 22. The bind and fly with DJI 04 Pro installed is about $400, and without the 04 Pro is $169, which is great if you already own an 04 Pro and want to reduce the cost, or want to avoid additional import duty if you're ordering this from overseas and save some extra money. I've said this before, but I like it when companies offer this as an option. This puts the Darkstar about $35 more than the Pavo20 Pro as a bind and fly, and $65 more if you're buying it without an 04 Pro. One other thing to note if you're ordering directly from the manufacturer. BetaFPV ships free to me here in Switzerland, but GEPRC charges about $40 for shipping. In your country that might be a little bit different, but it's probably worth considering as part of the cost. That said, the Darkstar 22 also includes a spare duct, a spare canopy, spare DJI mount, which definitely softens the price a little. But let's talk about the build and the parts they've used. The moment that you pick these up, you see where the Darkstar's extra cost went. GEPRC build quality is always impressive. My first 5-inch and my first 3.5-inch were both GEPRC, and it's the same story. The soldering, the layout, the way it's all put together is completely perfect. The materials used for the canopy and ducts, the internal design, it all feels very premium. And let me just take you through a few of the details that I love. The ELRS antenna has a proper mounting point, and it's a full antenna. The LED strip sits perfectly in the duct, however you can't see it from certain angles, unlike the Pavo20 Pro. On the back, the XC30 is integrated into the duct with a 3D print, which is a nice touch, although it does make batteries annoying to unplug. The Pavo20 Pro's build quality isn't bad, it's far from it, but GEPRC is in a completely different league here. One of the crucial differences on these is that the Pavo20 Pro is a pusher configuration, which usually means that it's more efficient and that equals longer flight times. The Darkstar is a standard orientation, which means that the props are off the ground when landing or crashing, and that means fewer bent or damaged props, which the Pavo20 Pro in my testing can affect the footage with vibrations really easily. So electronics wise, the Darkstar has an AIO that's very similar spec to the BetaFPV AIO used in the Pavo20 Pro. But the motors on the Darkstar are soldered to the board, not plug-in like they are on the Pavo, so a bit harder to replace if one breaks, but that does mean that it does have lower resistance, slightly better performance. It also makes things lighter and lower profile in the build, and there's less chance of a motor getting that weird twitch after long-term use. Although I have to admit that on my Pavo20 Pro this hasn't had any issues with this yet. The motor spec is very similar, although the Darkstar uses a higher KV 1104. Technically, the higher KV should mean that there's more power on the Darkstar, but it's also spinning heavier T-mount props, and the Pavo uses lighter, higher pitch push-on props. All of this sets up how differently these fly, which we'll get into in just a moment. Let's talk about the weight. The Darkstar is about 17 grams heavier than the Pavo20 Pro without the battery, and then with a 550 mAh 3S battery, that's 155 grams for the Pavo20 Pro and 172 for the Darkstar. With a 720 mAh 3S battery, that is about 162 for the Pavo and 179 for the Darkstar. But let's look at this with their recommended batteries from the manufacturer. For the Darkstar 22, GEPRC recommends the Storm 720 3S LiPo. For the Pavo20 Pro, BetaFPV recommends the 550 3S LiPo. And that adds even more to the difference, meaning that the Darkstar 22 comes in at about 24 grams heavier. I will say this though, that Storm battery punches well above its weight and I want a few more of these. Let's talk about the noise. I've had a lot of comments from people asking which one is quieter, so I flew them back to back so that you could hear the difference. First up, the Darkstar 22, and I'm flying this about 1 to 1.5 meters away from the mic. I'll do some hovering. And a punch out. And now I'll do some light throttling. And now the same with the Pavo20 Pro. Here's that hovering. Here's a punch out. And some throttle work. So you can hear and see from that the Pavo20 Pro is definitely quieter, and it has a much lower pitch sound. But honestly, these aren't noisy quads. After a few meters, they just pretty much disappear into the background. Okay, let's talk about the flight performance, and I'll be honest, the first few flights that I had with the Darkstar surprised me, like a lot. And after flying this for a few weeks, my first impression has only gotten stronger. This thing is ridiculously easy to fly. There were moments when I felt like I was cheating on my Pavo20 Pro, like, why am I enjoying this so much? Is it okay to fly something that makes me feel like I fly this smooth? Will my Pavo forgive me if I admitted that I've been flying another whoop and enjoying it? There are differences in the way these fly though. The Darkstar feels more refined, more predictable, extremely stable, and it makes you fly smoother than you actually do, which makes it great for cinematic work or for beginners that are trying to get used to flying. The Pavo20 Pro, however, has a lot more instant power. It's snappier, it's more reactive, it's more fun to fly if you like to fly like a hooligan. But it does show up your mistakes a lot more when you're flying. This is definitely better for flinging around and kind of playful freestyle, even though it's a little bit more unpredictable. If you're just learning or you're doing real estate cinematic work and you want the quad to help you with smooth footage, the Darkstar definitely wins here. If you want something with more personality, a bit more adrenaline inducing, and potentially force you to become a better pilot, the Pavo wins. But don't decide yet, because there's something in the next section in this video that might change your mind, especially if you crash a lot. Here we go, the things you should also know before buying. Just like the Pavo, the Darkstar's antennas love to pop out or get pushed in during crashes. It's annoying but manageable most of the time. However, when they get pushed in, sometimes the antenna wires get chewed up because they get forced into the props. Now remember, I did install the air unit myself, so maybe in the buy and fly version GEPRC have done this differently, but I'm probably going to add some sort of cable tie or something here to stop that from happening. But now for the thing on this quad that drives me completely insane, and that's these little balls. These little dampening balls are both brilliant and completely rage-inducing. The benefits of these are that the camera isolation is incredible, and at one point I was flying with a chewed up prop, and although I could hear it, I couldn't see any vibration in the goggles or the footage when I looked later. The Pavo20 Pro, as soon as there's a slight bit of damage on one of the props, you can see this in the goggles and the footage, although you can kind of fix this in gyroflow afterwards. What I really hate about these little balls is that they pop out in crashes all the damn time. And they break very easily, so you have to be careful putting them in. In some crashes, I had them snap off as well. And reinstalling them is an absolute nightmare, and it also makes maintenance on this way harder than on the Pavo20 Pro. GEPRC apparently include an easy installation tool in the production version of these, but my pre-release sample didn't come with one. so this might be a lot easier and less of an issue. If you do have one of these, let me know in the comments if it works. Also, replacement balls for the Darkstar in this size don't exist yet on GEPRC's site. So I ordered 5 packs of these Cinelog balls, which are a little bit too small, although they are easier to install. However, rather than breaking, they seem to completely vanish in a crash, so make sure you buy a few of them. There's one other thing about this design that until I can find a solution, it means that this quad is going to sit on my bench. Because the canopy floats, the camera mount can move a lot, and crashing caused the air unit connector plug on the 04 Pro to unplug itself, and so I've been bringing a pair of tweezers with me when flying to push it back in every time. And this may be because of the way that I've installed this, so if you have the bind and fly version and it's somehow attached differently, or you have the pre-installed version and you're getting the same issue, please let me know in the comments. And honestly, getting frustrated with these little balls and floating canopy genuinely stopped me from flying it some days, and I ended up picking up my Pavo20 Pro because it just works. It's a real shame though, because without this issue, this probably would have been the perfect cinewhoop. Let's talk about the flight time. When using their recommended batteries, the flight time is basically identical. I get about 4, maybe 5 minutes, but when using the same battery on both, the Pavo20 Pro flies for up to about a minute or so longer. Let's talk about maintenance. If you need to get into the quad to do repairs, or you want to add something else to the quad, the Pavo20 Pro is much easier to get into. 4 screws, you're good to go. Putting it back together is really easy too. On the Darkstar, you can remove 6 screws from the underneath and get in that way for some of the things. But as I mentioned earlier, getting in from the top by taking the canopy off, because of those damn isolation balls, is absolute torture. Actually, it's easy to get the canopy off, it's just not so easy to get it back on again. Maintenance takes way longer on the Darkstar 22, although maybe that special tool they include will help, so the Pavo20 Pro wins here. So GEPRC has created something incredible here. I genuinely didn't expect it to be this good. So should you buy this over the Pavo20 Pro? And here's the honest answer. The Darkstar 22 is probably the better quad, unless you crash. And if you crash a lot, you'll wish you had a Pavo20 Pro. But really don't overthink it. Both of these are very, very good, and whichever one you get, you will enjoy flying it. And if this is a glimpse of what's to come in the 2.2-inch cinewhoop class, I can't wait to see what comes next. If you have bought the Darkstar 22 and you have that tool to install the balls, please leave a comment and let us know if it works, because this might change my mind completely. But for right now, the way that I fly and crash, the Pavo20 Pro is the one that's going to be coming with me more often. So which one would you choose? Or do you own both? And if so, which one is your favorite and why? Let us know in the comments so that people can see what the real life experiences with these quads is like. And I'm going to leave this video up here in case you haven't seen it already, but then I'm also going to leave this one over here, which is one you'll probably like too. And I'll see you guys in the next one.